Hello, welcome to LifeTalk. I'm Mark Crutcher, and I'm joined by my trusty sidekick, Renee Hobbs. Hello, Renee.
Hello.
Unfortunately, this week, Carol was still not able to be with us because of the issues with her mother. She's having to take care of her. And we just came out with a new product, and it's this little business card. And actually, it's a two-part business card. It has to be folded in half. And Johnny Hunter from L.E.A.R.N. and Planned Childress had contacted me. They had some events coming up that they wanted to have something to relate to the Black Lives Matter, and this is all Black Lives Matter. And so we developed this, and we had a lot of people look at it and test it and decide what was the best messages.
Right.
And we developed this, and we printed out an additional 5,000 of them the other day, sent about probably 2,500, maybe 3,000 of them to Johnny and Clonard for some events they've got coming up. The biggest one of those is going to be, they're going to be back at the NAACP convention this year, handing these out.
Yes.
And we're starting to see, or they're starting to see, more and more black people waking up to this. You know, Johnny made a point that in one of the newsletters that he put out recently, I have right here, about how blacks are starting to figure out that they've been lied to, they've been played for fools. One of the things that was interesting about this is Planned Childress, who runs L.E.A.R.N. up in New Jersey, and it's kind of Johnny's second in command, I think, with L.E.A.R.N., which is the largest black pro-life organization in America. Clonard met with the leadership of the new Black Panther Party.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. It's a real big deal. And he said they had all seen the MAFA 21 documentary, which kind of reinforces to me something that I've been told by a lot of African Americans, and that is that this thing is percolating beneath the surface, and a lot of people are seeing it that you never think about.
Right.
And I wouldn't have thought that the new Black Panthers are sitting around watching MAFA 21, but they are. And he says a lot of them are starting to feel like that they've been betrayed and lied to.
And they're angry.
And they're angry about it.
Right.
And now Clonard has been asked by the new Black Panther leadership to address the whole organization. And so we're seeing some movement in that direction.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you the abortion industry does not want to see African Americans starting to get on board, because I've said this before. I said it when we started the MAFA project. Blacks in America control the future of the pro-life movement. Even if they don't realize that they do, they do. If blacks get on board in the pro-life movement in the numbers that we're starting to see them get on board, it's over.
It's going to end. Yeah.
And the pro-aborts know that.
Yeah.
This and young people coming on board are the most exciting things that are happening. And you notice that 10 years ago, if you'd have asked the leadership of the pro-life movement, what's the chances of the United Methodist Church taking on a pro-life position? We'd have said zero.
Right. Yeah.
But we just had this woman on after they've done this, and she's mentioned herself, blacks and young people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, she did.
That was the people who led this charge.
That's right.
That made this possible.
Yeah.
That's happening. That's going to happen across the country.
Right.
Now, one of the things that was pretty neat about this, these new cards and what Johnny and Clonard were telling me is a young lady that we've dealt with, and she's gotten in my office from us in the past, Angela Minter. She's with an organization called Sisters for Life, this African-American group, and that she had an event coming up. And actually what happened, Johnny called me and said, hey, Angela needs these cards. And, of course, Johnny always waits. These are emergencies, right? And he always waits to the day before we need them to call me and tell me to design something and get it to the printer so I can ship it out tomorrow.
We love you, Johnny.
Right. Right. I might have to lay the law down to Johnny that you can't wait.
To the last
He knew about
minute.
this for months and literally waited till like 2 days before they needed him
Yeah.
to call me. We kind of pulled some strings with our printer. We got the thing done, and we were able to get a supply of them out to Angela for her event. And she joins us now from Louisville, Kentucky. Hello, Angela.
Well, hello, Mark. How are you?
I am just fine, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I'm quite honored.
Thank you. Well, first off, let me ask you, do we need to do something different with this card? You've used it now in the real world. Before we get to that, I want to just ask you what you think about the card itself. Is this okay? Do we need to do some changing on it or what?
Well, you know, I think the card is extremely effective. We used it this weekend. I love the fact that you can put it in people's hands like a business card. But in addition to that, I think that it would be advantageous to have a larger piece as well, because some people were wanting to kind of hold up some signs with this information. So I don't know how we might be able to do that, but I think that may be effective as well. But the
You mean like
business size was
posters
tremendous.
or something?
Yes, posters would be outstanding as well.
We need to look at that, how we can
Yeah,
do that.
that's, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, the theme of this is All Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Tell us about your event that you had this weekend and what kind of reaction you had to these cards.
Well, it was a tremendous event. First of all, I think, for people to understand that here in Kentucky, Sisters for Life is the only organized and established pro-life African-American organization in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And so we really are sticking out like a sore thumb, if you will, because we don't have a lot of communication about the abortion industry in Kentucky, or we hadn't in the past. But Sisters for Life is doing that. We have an annual walk, which is the day before Father's Day, which was so essential in having your cards, because when we do this annual walk, we go to the abortion facility, and in this particular case, we went to the Planned Parenthood. Ordinarily, we would go to what's called the EMW, Emergical Surgical Center, and that is run by two black doctors here in Louisville. But we went this year to the Planned Parenthood because they've just opened a new abortion mill right in the heart of the inner city. So we thought it was important to make an adjustment, a detour, if you will, and then just go to the Planned Parenthood and bring all the pastors that we have invited to allow us to show the Ma'afa 21 since Black History Month in February. We invited them to join us, and we invited them to bring at least 20 of their members of the congregation with them to Planned Parenthood for a prayer rally and to actually see what was happening in the community. And so by us being able to give them this information, educate them even more about what's happening and how all Black lives matter, it was extremely effective. We had about 100 to 150 people there, and we also had all of our major news stations there as well. So we were very excited about it.
I know you got a lot of confrontation from the pro-aborts. And
yes, understatement.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, the fact that you got all that confrontation means they are taking you seriously.
Yes.
What a lot of times pro-lifers don't recognize is they'll say, well, we did something like this, and man, did we get a lot of blowback. The pro-aborts were, went berserk and it created a lot of confrontation and so forth.
Right.
And they look at that as a negative. That's a positive. The negative is if they ignore you.
Right. Right. Well, I'm glad you pointed that out, because when you're in the midst of it, it doesn't always feel like a positive.
Right.
How many years have y'all done this now?
Well, this is our 8th year doing our pre-Father's Day walk to the abortion mills. We've been getting increasingly more coverage and more attention to that from the pro-aborts and from the media and from the community.
That's good.
Let me ask you something that Johnny and L.E.A.R.N have told me, and I kind of touched on it a minute ago. And I want to see if this has been your experience as well with Ma'afa 21. Mm-hmm. I've never talked to you about it in these terms, Angela, but this project has been just exponentially bigger than we ever thought it would be.
Right.
We initially thought we might, over a period of 4 or 5 years, sell 10,000 or get out 10,000 Ma'afa 21 DVDs. Mm-hmm. We did that in about 6 months.
Wow.
Today, we've put out over 175,000 Ma'afa 21s.
Wow.
That doesn't count all the public showings, and that doesn't count the time it's been on television and shown in churches and in civic centers and that sort of thing.
Right.
But what Johnny and L.E.A.R.N are telling me is that when they start having these meetings where you have large numbers of African Americans in attendance, that they're finding that a lot of them may not have a copy of Ma'afa, but they've seen it. Or they've heard about it, or they want to see it, or they want to, get information about it. Has that been your experience too, that when you go out in these kind of events, I think you mentioned something the other day that some of the pastors that you weren't aware had seen Ma'afa had seen it?
Well, we have had some pastors that have heard about it. They just do not talk about this issue very much in the Black community, but that has been changing since we've been going forth. But I will tell you that the pastors that we have talked to and just asked them to give us an opportunity to put the Ma'afa 21 in their hands so that they can view it prior to us coming out, because we launched our educational forum, if you will, educating the community and the Black community in particular about Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger. And we said one of the things that we're doing is showing the Ma'afa 21 documentary documentary. Now, some of them agreed to allow us to come in and show it without seeing it themselves, and we thought that was extremely effective. A few wanted to view it in advance, but it still remained effective because they were still motivated. But they did have a concern about the time frame, but at the same time, they allowed us to do it, and they set for the entire time. Their members set for the entire time. And one of the things that we do at the end of the Ma'afa is we open up for question and answers. But my husband, he will ask the people, after seeing this Ma'afa 21 documentary, has your mind, has your position changed about Planned Parenthood? And without fail, you're going to get about 95% of the people that say yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's good.
So it always comes down to the same thing. It's a matter of education. It's a matter of we've got to get this out. When I say we, I mean the pro-life movement has suffered at a disadvantage because our message was always filtered through the prism of the pro-abortion media. But now that we've got the internet and now we've got things like Ma'afa 21 on DVD,
Yes.
we're not slaves to that system anymore. And that's the reason that we're seeing this massive turnaround in young people and this massive turnaround in African Americans.
You're absolutely right.
You know, Angela, I guess 2 years ago, I was at home and I got a phone call from a friend of mine named John Jakubczyk, lives in Arizona. And he's a longtime pro-life activist, former board member of National Right to Life. And he called me one night and he said, I just want to let you know, I just got back from the March for Life. He said, I'm in the car going home. And he said, I just had to tell you. He said, we have tried for years to get the black community involved. And he said, when I go to the March for Life, there'll be 250,000 people there. He said, I can look around and count the number of blacks on one hand. And he said, but this year, they are everywhere. They are everywhere. The biggest group that's growing in the pro-life movement is African Americans and, of course, the young people. And some of them are African Americans. And he said, but I'm telling you right now, Ma'afa is having a sea change effect on the pro-life movement. He said, I saw 1,000 times as many blacks at the March for Life this year as I've seen all the previous 25 years that I've been going combined. So we know that we're making an impact here. When I say we, I don't mean Life Dynamics for having produced it, but for people like you who are out there in the field actually using it and getting this material out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You nailed it. I mean, it is education, and it is getting it into the hands of people and then viewing it.
We're kind of starting to see this same thing now, and we've seen it with people from various kind of what were traditionally leftist, liberal, black organizations that are taking a second look at the abortion issue and looking at it from this context, from the context of it being black genocide. They had never thought about that before.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it is. And that's what L.E.A.R.N is seeing when he's talking about this new Black Panthers. He said the leadership of the new Black Panthers watched Ma'afa 21 and invited him to come speak to the whole membership.
Yeah. We just need the NAACP on our side.
That's
we need to work.
Right.
And that's what they're doing.
But you know what? Yeah, it looks like a monumental task. But if you went back 10 years ago, if you'd have said, which is going to be harder, to get the NAACP on our side or the United Methodist Church, I think most people would have said it'd probably be about 6, 1/2 dozen the other.
That's right.
You know?
Right.
But here we are, you know?
Right.
Angela, I want to say something I've said to other people that have been on the show before. You've never been with us. That we can't do what we're doing without the support of guys like you out in the field. We can't be everywhere.
Right.
And I just want to thank you for that. And we need the feedback that you give us when you go out into the field and see the reaction that you get from things like these cards and other things that we'll be producing and Ma'afa 21 to getting the black community energized.
Exactly. Well, I tell you, you can be very encouraged and know that the Lord is using you in a mighty way. If we didn't have this material, it would be, so much more difficult, so much more challenging. And as a result of having the Ma'afa 21 and now having these cards, we're able to affect people that would have possibly never listened to the message. You were all mentioned about the left and different people that are now starting to see differently. My father was at one point the president of the NAACP here in Louisville for many years, and he was also a state legislator, extremely liberal state legislator. And tell people when I go out that if I were a voting age at that time, I would have probably never been able to vote for him, knowing what I know now. But at the same time, he has changed his position about this issue, and he has seen the Ma'afa 21. He has given me information and kind of a strategy, if you will, when I go to talk to individuals like the president of the NAACP now, which we're going to share about Ma'afa 21 in the next week, because we launched that boycott on Saturday, saying that we are boycotting in the state of Kentucky and in Louisville in particular, the Planned Parenthood. So I'm going to take the Ma'afa 21 to the president of the NAACP and also the president of the Urban League here in Louisville, and hopefully start the conversation on the local level. And because I've got your material, it's going to be so much more easier.
Well, good.
That's
So
good.
have you started telling your father, see, I told you I was right?
Not only have I started telling him I told you I was right, but now he's supplying me with information that he used to get from the enemy's camp, and now he's helping us out.
Well, good.
Good.
That's good. So
Yeah,
you got kind of a infiltrator of sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's
well,
totally
good.
the Lord.
Well, listen, keep us posted, Angela, on any new projects you've got coming up, and just if something happens out there related to this issue,
Yeah.
we'd love to have you back on anytime to discuss it. So just please keep us posted.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I certainly will, because we, again, Mark, are going to carry out this educational forum showing the documentary of Ma'afa 21 all the way through Black History Month of next year. And we've already gotten a good reason to go back into the churches again, kind of circling back to the ones that we've already been in, which is over a dozen, and in addition to the new ones, because we launched the boycott. So now we're going to be doing two things at the same time. So I'll definitely keep you posted.
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks,
Thank you all
Angela.
for having me on. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There's no way we can lose
I know it.
with the people that we've got on our side,
Yeah,
right?
we ended on a good note.
We sure did. And like I said, the United Methodist Church deal, youth coming on board, blacks coming on board.
The battle's ours.
And you can see why we see all these quotes from the pro-aborts about how panicked they are.
Yeah.
And, I think it's so funny that you see these quotes where they ridicule the pro-lifers. And then they'll come back and say, but I can't believe we're losing to these people.
That's right.
Yes,
How
you
could
are.
we
Right.
when they have all of the money and media and everything else on their side?
Right. But they don't have God.
We have God.
Right.
That's
right. Yeah, we're on God's side. We're not on his. He's not on our side. We're on his side.
That's right.
And that's the thing that we have to always keep in mind.
Yeah.
And that's what they can't call them. They can't call them that. God's not going to support the execution of the children that he creates. It just
right.
doesn't make sense.
Nope.
And that's why things like this RCAR, Religious Coalition for Abortion Rights or whatever, these people were fooling themselves all along.
Yeah.
God is not
Right.
going to profit that. There's
That's
no way.
right.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next week.